My name is Crispin Mutehimbwa, and I'm the Executive Director of Sensitise Uganda. So today we had a national stakeholders engagement involving different stakeholders from different civil society organizations, political parties, agencies of government like the Electoral Commission, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Equal Opportunities Commission, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, different political parties under the National Consultative Forum for Political Parties and Political Organizations, different platforms that bring together youth and women under political parties, basically to discuss electoral and constitutional reforms in Uganda.
Let me take this opportunity to thank Sensitise Uganda, of course, together with the National Consultative Forum and the International Republican Institute, for organizing this stakeholders engagement to discuss electoral and constitutional reforms. And I believe this is in the context of the upcoming 2026 general election. I also want to thank Sensitise Uganda for the good working relationship that it has had with the Uganda Human Rights Commission. We are here to discuss electoral and constitutional reforms. The Electoral Commission released the roadmap to the next general election about 3 years prior to the election. And I think we need to applaud the Electoral Commission on this milestone.
I'd like to thank IRI for moving us to this level so far. That network, you and Sensitise Uganda, we do appreciate, because there was a lacuna until when you came in. We were handicapped. We as NCF could not roll out this until when you came. Something that we cannot ignore as NCF. We'd like to appreciate you in a very special way.
But the whole idea is that for us, we are providing an intellectual ground where different stakeholders can come and discuss these issues so that we build consensus on what we need really to go with at the end of the day.
But ladies and gentlemen, there is a conspicuous trend. What I'm trying to say is, one, we've generally lowered the threshold for admission into the electoral playing field in the name of universalizing elections. Yes, we know that it is right for all adult citizens to participate in elections. But the question is, should that license apply to every Tom, Dick, and Harry? Elective offices have become a source of employment. So 2 action points for me from this, that either we could consider strict education qualifications for candidates, but also enforce stringent integrity checks for electoral stakeholders generally. Secondly, we must seriously consider stepping up education generally, but more specifically, drive civic and voter education to push one message, to underscore politics as service to humanity rather than a means of survival.
The participants, like other parties, should be able to be involved in the nomination of commissioners. And 2, the commissioners should be subject to public scrutiny. So I am comfortable with this, and it should come out clear. Not only one hand should have the ability to appoint. It should be open. Actually, what we are in is a multi-party dispensation. Appointment by the president was okay when we were in the movement system, because we were in a one-party something or movement something. But now we are a multi-party.
I understand the same law talks about the right to vote for all citizens of Uganda. Again, gives them the same right to contest, to be voted for. Not so. I've been asking myself whether these prisoners can be allowed to contest, because I made. This same provision gives them the right to be voted for. That's one. Number two, I also understand that there is also the same law talks about, especially when it comes to registration, talks about the place of origin or where you reside from. Now, and the fact that you're a voter, these candidates should be allowed to access that facility to campaign. So are you going to allow these candidates to access these centers to go and campaign? I thank you.
My recommendation would be for Electoral Commission to benchmark, especially to utilize and leverage on use of technology, where you're having people in the diaspora. Once somebody is registered, there could be an enrolled system of all registered voters. For those that want to vote and cast their vote online, have it casted from wherever they are, provided they are well verified in the system. On the aspects of prisoners, that they be allowed not to vote. We all know that you cannot contest if you have a record, if you're a convict, for example. But at least that right to vote should not be taken away.
When we're talking about the principle of leave no one behind, if we are speaking about inclusion, if we are speaking about bringing those who have been left behind up, then we can't leave persons with disabilities. We can't leave the women. For a woman to stand for political office, I need to do double the work that a man does. So the women really have to stay.
They are doing nothing. They are doing nothing. Number 18, interest groups. They have outlived their reason why they were put there. One, they were supposed to pick the voices of the voiceless, the women. For the last almost 40 years, they have been enjoying, not minding about their constituents, meaning they are not picking the voices of those people they were made to pick.
As Equal Opportunities Commission, from the word go, we say no. This is not a creation of a mere statute, but it is in the Constitution. When you look at Article 32, which talks about affirmative action, it says, notwithstanding anything in this Constitution, the state shall take affirmative action in favor of groups marginalized on the basis of gender, age, disability, or any other reason created by history. Cascade down to Article 33, Clause 5. It says, without prejudice to Article 32 of this Constitution, women shall have the right to affirmative action for the purposes of redressing the imbalances created by history, tradition, or custom. So, I think that number 18 in our proposed amendments, in its entirety, should terribly go out.
We can't do away with older persons. We have pushed for these people to be represented in Parliament, and just when they have just had one term, we are getting them out. We can work towards improving it, but we can't kill something that is good. We can't fail to have our women, persons with disabilities, elder persons out of Parliament.
Our friends in the army, we really support them and appreciate what they did in the past. But as of now, there is no reason why you are in Parliament. You are doing what? First of all, we can represent your issues in Parliament. We civilians, you are employers.
These people are not in Parliament because of being vulnerable. However, we looked at the history as a country, that the governments in this country have always been changed by the muzzle of the gun, by people putting on attires like my brother here, Okondakwe, because they did not know what was taking place in government. They were always contained in the barracks. Now, they wanted them to come to the source and actually appreciate how the government is run, how policies are formulated, and how good they can also participate in the development of our country. That is why they are there, not as not by affirmative action or being vulnerable, but basing on the historical background.
We want to thank you not only for listening in, but for guiding. You'll appreciate, as I was seated there, when you are trying to make these proposals, you have to look into so many laws concurrently. You find that the Electoral Commission has a yardstick on what they rely on when they are declaring results. They may not rely on 50% of the registered voters. They are guided by the law. So when you read that in tandem with what with the proposals we are putting, it is good that we widen the scope in terms of the proposals that we want to achieve, because there are other laws that run concurrently, and we don't want to reach Parliament and they make us look like as if we didn't do a good research. I therefore wish to call upon our NCF members, as we live here, to go back to our political parties and to engage further, because you can see the provocation of the debate here. I imagine even back home, when you go and present this, it will be a hot debate also there. Make sure that this draft, which was initiated by our own brothers and sisters Uganda, with our consultation, reaches at least the top management of political parties. A lot of things happen down at a polling station, where at times our brothers change uniforms. You find he's putting on a t-shirt, he's not even wanting to identify the guy is moving on. And in most cases, our investigations reveal that they point to police. And we need just to be very candid about this.
People are free to discuss any idea that they want. Again, it is up to them. If they think interest groups are not important anymore, then they can agree, take them off.
We still need young people in Parliament. What we have been advocating for under the Interparty Youth Platform is to challenge the electoral college method on how they are elected. Now, you look like the national female youth representative is like, she runs almost a presidential campaign, the entire country. They are brought here in Kampala or West or East, and they are locked in hotels. The one who has the money to be able to accommodate the delegates is the one who will take the vote. And for me, I say that it can be an extended debate on how we can have it modified.
Sensitise Uganda has also consulted other stakeholders that include the Interparty Youth Platform, the Interparty Women Platform, different political parties and civil society organizations. Beyond constitutional and electoral reforms, I also invite you to start or continue having conversations on how we can continue building a peaceful Uganda, because I'm sure me and you, we have one country called Uganda, and we need to do all what is possible to ensure that Uganda remains peaceful ahead of the 2026 general elections and beyond. As Sensitise Uganda, and more so as an individual, I'm convinced that dialogue and only dialogue can help us forge a way on how we can secure and maintain peace in our country. We need to start having honest conversations about the future of our country, and the best way to do this is through dialogue. And if possible, have a well-structured national dialogue as a broad-based, inclusive, and participatory platform involving large segments of civil society organizations, politicians, youth, women, academia, security agencies, peace-building experts, and electoral key players, so that we can negotiate major electoral and constitutional reforms, and also find a way of how we can observe peace in a complex and fragmented conflict election environment. As Sensitise Uganda, we are highly committed to this process, and we pledge to always collaborate with you as we continue to contribute to the developing of our country Uganda.
So must Parliament go now? Are they going to serve only 2 terms? My colleague has already said there's a constitutional time frame for them to serve, 5 years. So electoral roadmap is now 2 years down the road. That means the 3 years, we have no Parliament, supposedly for them to ponder upon.
Thank you very much. Let me give it to Councillor Ruth.
When we deal with governance and elections, the Constitution is very clear. It gives the time frame. The Parliamentary Elections Act also gives the time frame. But also, when we are dealing with a government, at no time should a government or a state fail to have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. At no time, whether through elections or not. So that is why the term continues until the end of that government or that constitutional time frame. What if there's a situation of a crisis, an emergency, a state of war, or anything can happen where we need Parliament to sit. So when you put this provision, you will be defeating good governance.
I want to thank Sensitise Uganda for making sure that you are on board, because you are a very key stakeholder in terms of these issues we are talking. And already, we as NCF have noted so many issues, and we call upon Sensitise Uganda to engage further IRI.
No, as Sensitise Uganda, we are committed to this process, and we pledge that we are going to continue collaborating with all the different stakeholders to make sure that we make a contribution towards having electoral and constitutional reforms that work for every Ugandan. We want to thank our different partners, particularly the International Republican Institute, for supporting us this far in making sure that we advance electoral and constitutional reforms. It is not an easy thing to support this process. These processes are very expensive. We also appreciate the contribution of different stakeholders, like the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Electoral Commission, the Equal Opportunities Commission, the different political parties that are under the National Consultative Forum, a forum which we are partnering with to advance these reforms jointly, but also the other platforms like the Interparty Youth Platform, the Interparty Women's Platform, the security agencies like the UPDF and police, for allowing it to come with us together so that we can have these candid discussions that are very important for building democracy of our very own country that we love most.